Hey everybody, it's Jennifer J. Welcome back to episode 84 of Moving Forward. Let me just get my timer set for you. We are going to be in T.D. Jakes' The Grace to Make Changes today. I know that we were going to talk about T.D. Jakes, but it was a different one. I got to go back to find. I have lots of notes from that one. Faithful Wounds Part 3. We are not going to talk about that one today after all because it just, all my notes, I have 4 pages of notes as you saw me flipping through. Excuse me. It was all really personal stuff and I'm just not ready to share that stuff yet. So I decided, we're not going to talk about that one. But if you want to go find it, it is really good. It was summer of 22 when he recorded it, I think early August. So if you want to watch it, Faithful Wounds Part 3, it was really good. But we were going to talk today about the grace to make changes, and he was using Genesis chapter 6 verses 1 through 9 for that, but he said some things that really struck me, you guys. So he said, when we fail to live up to, no, let me back up. He said, you have moved on a promise. People ask you questions, but you don't have answers. And that is so true, because people would ask me why I was moving, and like, I don't know, because God told me to, and that's what I would say. And a lot of people, even Christian people, would just kind of look at me funny. People that weren't Christians thought I was really crazy. But he said, be obedient and trust him and go where he's told you to go. You have a promise. So I wrote in my notes, I don't have a place to live, I don't have any friends, but I have a promise. And he said Noah found grace. He said not even in his era. It wasn't even in his era. So Calvary, where we were given grace when Jesus died on the cross, that hadn't even happened yet. Noah was way before Jesus, and yet he found grace. And he said, go find what hasn't been imagined. And I just loved that. He said, go get it. Go. God sent you there for a reason, so go get it. And I just really liked that. So then he said, man was created in God's image to be a reflection of heaven. You become what you look up to. Moses had glory shining from his face. He said, what you look at is what you become. And that was really good too, because, you've heard like you are what you eat. And, if you don't eat healthy, you're not going to be healthy. And if you do eat healthy, you're going to be strong and healthy. But it's that way too with what goes in our brain and what we're doing and how we're spending our time and, what we're looking at or listening to and all of that. So be a reflection of heaven. You become what you look up to. And I just thought that was really something good to think about. So he said, becoming divinity before the cross required a veil. And that's because Moses, I'm not going to say this right. You guys are going to have to listen to the sermon. Moses wore the veil because the glory of God shone from his face so brightly. Because he'd looked on God, but he only looked like as he passed by and saw his back, because he said he couldn't look on him. But anyway, that was just really exciting for me when I read that. And then in the middle of August, I was working at Target, you guys. I started working, I just wasn't making enough money at my day job. It's a commission-based job, and it had just really fallen off, not just for me, for like everybody in the company. And so I went and got a job at Target to work part-time, and I was able to share my story with a customer. And like, I had nobody in line. Like, there had been a long line. I was at checkout, I think they call them advocate, guest service advocate or whatever. Anyway, I had a long line. And then this young lady came up and she just got talking to me, and she was just like, at the counter, where you have your swipe your card and stuff, and there's that little counter, and she's just on there and she's just talking to me. And she wanted to hear, like, why am I in Arizona? And I shared it with her, and nobody else came to my line. Like, I shared with her for like 5 minutes. It was so amazing. And she loved it, and she just was wowed by it. And, we were able to talk about God. And she didn't say she was a Christian. She didn't say that she goes to church or believes or doesn't believe. She just acted really interested, and it was just so cool. And I also had been able to share with a coworker my story, which was also very cool. And then August 13th, at Pilgrim Rest, my pastor, Terry Mackey, did a sermon over Genesis 41, chapter 41, verse 25 to the end of the chapter, and then Acts chapter 7, verse 10. Gosh, I can't talk tonight, you guys. I just came back from church, from Wednesday night church, and normally we have Bible study on Wednesday night, but tonight they had the women and men were split up tonight, and the women had the guest speakers of the Double Dutch team. They have a Double Dutch team that's over 40, and they taught us some dances, and they let us play jump rope and all kinds of stuff, and it was just a lot of fun, and I'm just a little exhausted from that, but we had fun. But anyway, he was talking, and he said, you got to pay the cost to be the boss, and he was saying it's time for an upgrade. That was the name of it. It's time for an upgrade. So he says, you're moving from one favor to more favor, and it has a cost. God needs control. And that is so true, you guys. You've got to lay down your stuff every day. You've got to lay down your plans every day. It's sometimes more than once a day I have to, but just you got to give it to God and give him control. That's the only way it's going to work. Joseph asked the cupbearer to tell the king, in chapter 40, verse 14. So what my pastor said was he was trying to take the pen out of God's hand. He's telling the cupbearer, hey, go tell him what I've done here. But it wasn't his time. And, the cupbearer didn't tell him either. He forgot. Because God had a better plan. Pharaoh did not do Joseph a favor. Joseph did Pharaoh a favor. He made Joseph second in command. He went from the pit to the prison to the palace because God. And man, don't you know God can do it too. Gosh, I have so many notes. It said God will still prepare a plan to get you where he wants you to be. God heard Jonah's prayer in the belly of the whale, or fish, big fish, whatever it was. And God will bless you in the midst of your own mess. So, I've already moved on to, I think I skipped. I did, but anyway, it's okay. This was Greater Archview Baptist, Kenneth Martin, out of the book of Jonah, chapter 3, verses 1 through 10, from rebellion to obedience. But he was saying, God will bless you in the midst of your own mess. And Jonah did have a mess, right? He didn't obey, and he ended up in the belly of the fish, and then he prayed, and the fish spit him out. But prayer will make things work out in your life. God spoke to the fish. God can speak to the fish. God can speak to your landlord. God can speak to, the cable company. Whatever you're struggling with right now, God can speak to the fish. He can speak to the wind and the waves, right? He can speak to anything in your life, whatever you're dealing with. It doesn't matter what it is. There is nothing too big for God. Nothing. Just absolutely nothing. So God can speak to your situation. The Israelites were backed up to the Red Sea, right? And the Egyptians were coming at them. What God do? Parts the sea. They go across on dry land. It wasn't even muddy where their feet were getting muddy. It was dry land. So he can do it for you. Recognize the grace that he gives. Jonah heard, arise and go to the place I told you the first time. Arise and go. I love that because I didn't know that I was going to be told to arise and go. But that's exactly what he told me with Arise Women's Ministry. Respond without delay. When God speaks, respond. And I hope I did that quickly enough, but that is what he's telling you to do too. So when God speaks to you, respond. Don't wait. You don't have to say, I got to pray about it. You don't have to say, give me a minute. If he tells you to do something, just do it. You might be in the grocery store and he tells you to buy a half gallon of milk for, the lady that you just passed. It might not make any sense to you. You might think she's going to think I'm crazy. You might think you don't even know if she needs milk. It doesn't matter. If you feel like God's telling you to do it, just do it. You have no idea what God has in place or planned. So whatever it is, if he tells you to do it, just respond. Recite the message, he said. Memorize verses. That is so important. Jesus came to say what his Father said. Recite the message. Radical change occurs when we're obedient to share the gospel. They heard the message and they took action. So move when God calls you to move. You guys, this was in August. It was almost a year since God had actually first started telling me to move. We're almost at a year. And I'm still seeing that word. I'm still, it just gives me goosebumps, you guys. It's just so cool. And I didn't know about arise yet, but I underlined it, arise and go. I have it underlined several times and I have arrows by it. And it's just like, and now I look back and I go, and now I'm a missionary with Arise Movement out of East West Ministries. It's just crazy to me. So very, very cool. I think I'm going to stop. I've got a couple of minutes. Okay, wait. I'm not going to stop. Proverbs 18:16 said, and he said, "Your gifts will make room for you, and set you before great men." Wisdom is the right application of knowledge. Your gift can only take you so far. You need wisdom. And how do you get wisdom? You ask. God says if you ask for wisdom, he will give it to you. If you want God to turn it around, you got to move from knowledge to wisdom. Wisdom walks around quicksand. Wisdom obeys. Wisdom obeys. Wisdom obeys. God will give you the upgrade. This is back to Pastor Mackey's. Sorry, my notes kind of jumbled up. Knowledge gets you to stand before great men. Wisdom sets you among great men. So knowledge might get you to stand with great men, but wisdom sits you among great men. And that means people, not just men. I hope you all know that. God already put greatness inside of you, but it requires wisdom on your part. So, just like when God tells you to do something, you can't just sit there and go, okay, well, God said this is going to happen, so I'm just going to sit here and wait. No, he does want you to be still and know that he is God. But he also requires action. He needs you to pray. He needs you to be in his word. So it requires work on our part. I'm a 100% supporter funded missionary. I can't just sit here and hope that all of you just decide to support my ministry. I have to make phone calls. I have to go visit people. I have to explain the vision and, what the point is and what God's doing in Phoenix with foster kids and with kids aging out and with homelessness and stuff, and share the vision so that you might want to come alongside where God is already working and join him. I can't just sit here and do nothing. And that's what he's saying here. Like, you've got to put in the work. You can't just sit there and expect to get your wisdom. You've got to ask for it, and you've got to obey. So count it all joy when you fall into temptation, James 1:2. Ask God, who will give to men liberally and freely, James 1:5. Ask in faith and not wavering or doubting, James 1:8. Act like it is so before it is so, until it is so, because God said so. Pastor says that a lot, and I'm going to say it again. You might have heard it, but if you haven't, it says, act like it is so before it is so, until it is so, because God said so. So if God's made you a promise, he is going to keep it. You can count on it. So just act like it. Act like it is so until it is so, because God said so. And that's what I'm doing right now in Phoenix. I'm not fully funded yet, so I'm not drawing a paycheck, and I have to keep my day job, and it's really hard to do both. But I'm still trying to make plans. I'm still working with Arise. I'm getting in touch with the OCJ adult campuses so that we can start some Bible studies on the independent living campuses, ages 18 to 24. And hopefully take them out in the streets of Phoenix once a month on a Saturday to share their stories with people that we just meet on the street, because they're going to have some great stories. They've been in the system, you guys. They've been there. They've been to some rough places and they get it. And I just think God's going to do a wonderful thing in Phoenix. So I am looking forward to it. I don't know if you have heard about the Asbury Revival in Kentucky. You probably have. It's in the news. But tomorrow, and if you're watching this in real time at least, this is Ash Wednesday 2023. So tomorrow, Thursday, we are supposed to have an Arizona revival. They're going to have in Mesa, which is just the next town over from me. It's about 10 minutes away. And I plan to go, and we shall see. It's supposed to be from 7 to 9, but that's what the one in Asbury, Kentucky was supposed to be, and it's lasted, I don't even know how many days now. I've lost track, 2 weeks, I think. So we'll just see what God's doing, because there is a revival going on, you guys. It's in the streets, it's in universities, on campuses and stuff, but there needs to be a revival in our heart. So I would really challenge you to be in the Word, especially this is Lent. So every day from now to Easter, be in the Word. Start small if you have to. Tell yourself you're going to read a couple verses if you have to. If you're able to read an entire chapter, that would be better. I love the Gospel of John. If you don't know where to start, the Gospel of John is a great place to start. If you're not a brand new Christian and you have read the Bible quite a bit, I think Timothy is a great book to read. 1st and 2nd Timothy are awesome, and also 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. Nope, I said that wrong. There's only 2. 1st and 2nd Peter are also really good. So if you wanted to try and read the books of Timothy and the books of Peter, those are also really good if you are more advanced in your Bible study. So I am going to sign off for now, and I'm so glad you guys joined me. We have lots of new viewers today. My Sunday, I did my testimony at Sunday school, and one of my friends here, she's from New Life in Kansas, but now she's here, and she came to church with me, and she actually recorded part of it, and it's on TikTok and Facebook and all over, and it's had like 2,500 views or more by now, and so people have been going and subscribing to the channel to watch. So welcome to everybody that's new. I hope that you will go back to the very beginning. If you click on videos up at the top, it'll take you to the very beginning and you can see the whole story. Everybody that's been hanging in, I really appreciate you, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.